Question 4. How did you use media technologies in the construction and research, planning and evaluation stages? Throughout my project, I've used a variety of different software and equipment. The tool which I use continually throughout my coursework is my blog. This has documented the process I've gone through from the research stage all the way through to the finished product. Blogging gives me the opportunity to make it an interactive experience. I can use screenshots of, for example, videos that I've watched to back up the points that I make. Particularly useful when I've been analysing short films in detail. I also upload the video as a whole, either from YouTube or Vimeo. One particularly useful feature is the advantage of putting things in categories. So I've been able to put my posts into ideas and experiments, or I could label them with research, production, pre or post-production. When I was creating my paper figures, I labelled all of those construction, and also for my ancillary tasks I've been able to separate those as well, which makes the navigation a whole lot easier and a lot more interactive. It also means that when I want to look back on something, if I want to look back at some ideas and see maybe how I've developed them, or if I wanted to refer back to some research I did earlier on in the project, I don't have to go through pages and pages on my blog. I can just go to the categories on the right hand side and find what I'm looking for. As I mentioned, I used Vimeo and YouTube when researching animations to analyse. When I was doing some research into the children's genre, I also used iPlayer to watch a couple of episodes of Charlie and Lola. This meant I didn't have to go out and buy a copy or look on the TV listings. I could have it instantly. And of course, I could immediately blog about it afterwards. When coming up with my ideas, I had to write a script and produce an animatic. For my script, I downloaded a free program called Celtex, which helps to format it for you. It's really easy to use, and I picked it up very quickly. It also looks very professional, which is an added bonus. The program I use for my animatic is iMovie. I've used it many times before, so I'm very familiar with it. Although the features are fairly basic, I'm only creating animatic, so I don't need the wide range of possibilities that I have on Final Cut Express, which leads me on to what I used to edit, which was Final Cut. Like iMovie, I'm very familiar with this program, and therefore I'm comfortable with the controls and the different options available when it comes to editing. This was particularly useful when I was matching the voiceovers with the animation, as to begin with it was quite tricky, and it would have been made more difficult if I hadn't had so much experience on the program. I found that lack of experience was a particular problem when using Photoshop. I used it to create my film poster and ran into several difficulties when doing so. However, the time and effort put into getting to know Photoshop better was worthwhile, as the outcome looked professional, and that's more important than taking the easy route of an easier program. Again, YouTube was particularly useful, as I was able to watch tutorials when I became particularly stuck. Similarly with InDesign, I'd only used a couple of times previous to creating my film review. Therefore, it took me half an hour or so to reacquaint myself with the software. However, the range of sophisticated options was what made the program so great, as I was able to create a review that was almost identical to that of Empire, something which I would not have been able to do on a substandard program. The final two programs that I used were GarageBand and LiveType. The latter I used for the titles within my short film. I'd used it last year, so it was within a matter of minutes that I was comfortable with using the program again. As with everything I've talked about already, again, the sophisticated level of the options available meant that I was able to create titles that were at the same level as my production. Being both a GCSE media and music student, I'm extremely familiar with the tools of GarageBand. I use this primarily for my voiceovers. I recorded them first for my animatic, and then later I re-recorded with some different voices for my final production. GarageBand allows me to export them as MP3 files, and then I can then import those into Final Cut. I also use GarageBand for my sound effects and for my music. Again, I could either record them directly into GarageBand, or with the music I created it on the program itself. It's an ideal tool for what I needed. As well as software and the internet, The other type of media technology I used was, of course, a camera. Unlike previous years, I used my own camera. It's a digital SLR and it has a HD recording function. I hadn't had the camera long before I needed to use it for my production, so I had to familiarise myself with the controls and functions quite quickly. Of course, the main difficulty with only having one camera is the continuity shots. I had to have my character repeat the action again and again, or I would have to take the shot, get her to freeze, and then move to the other side of the room so she would be walking towards me, for example. Although this is just a minor issue. As well as using it for my actual production, I also use it for the blogging, as every time I would change my character slightly in the construction side, I would then proceed to take a photo of it and then upload it to my blog.